Non-resident selling property in Canada. Why do you need to know the seller is a non-resident, and how would that affect you as the buyer? Well, according to this court case published by the Globe and Mail, this buyer was on the hook for $92,000, all because his team didn't do enough due diligence if the seller was a non-resident. Now, before we continue, we are hiring. We're looking to coach, mentor, and teach a handful of special individuals. And we're not just looking for bodies, we're looking for solid people. People that are willing to get out of their comfort zone, to challenge themselves, and that will fit within our organization's culture. And for those that want flexibility with their schedule, and of course, a six-figure income. If you don't want to be an average realtor, then you can't put yourself in an average environment. Now, it doesn't matter if you're outside of Calgary, we want to talk to you. And you can contact us in the description below. Now, we're gonna have a YouTube channel just for realtors or for those who are just getting started in real estate. So make sure you stay tuned for our launch. Our Canadian tax law states that a purchaser of Canadian real estate must withhold 25% of the sale price to pay for any income tax if the seller is a non-resident. Now, this can be as high as 50% if it was used as an income property or investment property in Canada. This can apply if you originally bought your home as a non-resident, for example, for family, children going to university, or you bought it here as a resident and then relocated outside of Canada. With the latter, most people end up renting it out. Why is this important for you as a buyer? You can be on the hook for the seller's income tax obligations if you don't do your due diligence. What are some common questions as a buyer, such as, well, how do I check to see if there's enough equity? What happens if the seller doesn't have that equity? And how do I protect myself as the buyer for a bill worth potentially tens of thousands of dollars or more? I'm gonna share some important tips after the following steps to deal with this type of situation. Step one, you have to be aware. And this really starts with your realtor. Now, is the property tenant occupied or vacant? Your realtor must ask the right questions. Step two, ask the right questions. Ask the listing realtor, where is the seller right now? Is that their permanent residence or are they just visiting? And have they declared themselves as a non-resident? Step three, start your due diligence. Now, if they are a non-resident, then you can ask them for their most current mortgage balance to see how much equity is in the property. And you can also ask to see their driver's license and make sure that it's current and not expired, and you want to make sure you check the address. Step four, seek professional advice. Now, a lawyer is someone that you want to consult before you write the offer so that you know what the right terms to put in the purchase contract. How do I protect myself as the buyer for a bill worth potentially tens of thousands of dollars more? Well, number one, you want to check your equity. Two, clearance certificate. Now, you want to get this from the seller, and it's issued from the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency. And it states that the seller has paid all the amounts of tax, interest, and penalties that they owe for the property at the time the certificate was issued. Now, the certificate is really there to protect the buyer because the buyer is ultimately responsible for paying the non-resident capital gains tax in Canada for real estate. And this normally takes about 90 days, but at the time of this recording, it's about 120 days. Now, for the seller, you need to submit for the clearance certificate once the deal is firm. Now, what happens if the seller doesn't have that equity? Well, you have two options. Number one, you can still take possession as the buyer with tenancy at will. It means that you take possession, but the funds don't actually transfer, and you're basically just renting from the seller. As a buyer, it is your right to exercise this option because you have performed on the contract, whereas the seller has not. Option number two is delay closing until the clearance certificate is provided to the buyer. What are some tips in a situation like this where you are dealing with a non-resident selling property in Canada? Well, a warning signal is if the seller signs the contract and they are from outside of Canada. As a realtor, you want your realtor to read the realtor remarks. Sometimes it will say leave the offer open for 24 hours as the seller is out of the country. You want to state in the terms that the seller agrees to sign a sworn affidavit or make a solemn declaration about the residency status. Cross out the part in the contract stating that the seller is a resident of Canada. And you want to Google non-resident sale of property in Canada and non-resident capital gains tax in Canada. You can also check out the CRA website. For sellers, now if you're a resident, you have nothing to worry about. But if you don't have enough equity, then your lawyer may ask you to bring the difference between your mortgage balance and 25% equity to put into their trust account. Now, it's very important that you be proactive. You can start the process early on with a pre-clearance before you even list a property. Then when you have a firm deal, you can apply for the official clearance certificate, which should take much less time since CRA knows about your situation. The biggest takeaway when dealing with a non-resident selling property in Canada is really your realtor's responsibility. Unfortunately, the average realtor in Alberta only does 3 to 4 deals per year. And even realtors who've been in the business for 18 years, like the one I was just dealing with, may not have dealt with something like this before. So, what do you need? You need a lawyer and you need an accountant and a realtor that knows their stuff. If you know someone who is a non-resident selling real estate in Canada, or if you have friends or family looking to buy property here from another country, then you want to make sure you send them this video. Now, if you want more tips about real estate, then make sure you check out our real estate tips playlist, where we talk a lot about unconventional things like multiple offers, how to negotiate with real estate in a hot market so that you can avoid other buyers from bidding up the price, questions to ask a realtor when you're interviewing them, and how to become a real estate investor. Now, I'm gonna put the lists at the end of this video. My name is Felix Chan, Calgary realtor and mortgage broker with the LiveInnerCity real estate team, and we'll see you in a few seconds.